Hey, all the listeners out there. Thanks for being with us today. I am just so honored and grateful to have a special guest on today, Dale, Dale Pinkert. Um, I stumbled across Dale's profile on Twitter probably several years ago in my trading communities, and then followed Dale as a coach in Forex analytics, where I learned so very much. Dale began his career in operations on the Chicago Mercantile Exchange floor for Dean Witter when they traded currency futures on chalkboards. He became a licensed Series 3 broker in 1976 and went on to own and operate Pickert Commodities. He became a member of the CME IOM division for a stint, and his forecasts have been aired on many financial media, including CNBC. Dale has coached and mentored retail and prop traders and has gained solid reputation for his work on the other side of the mic, having interviewed over 700 of the best in trading. And I have been a recipient of those, listening to those interviews, just so rich, so much wealth in those interviews. I've also learned how to interview by listening to you interview, Dale.
Oh, interesting.
So thank
Yes.
you so much for being here today. I really appreciate your time and very honored to have you with us.
Okay, it's my pleasure, Danny. You've been a loyal follower, and you've been, watching what I do all these years, and it's so, rewarding to know that, especially in this business where not everything goes right all the time. It's a high risk business, and at times you're going to go through periods where you're going to be giving money, donating money to the market, and it really takes a strong person to stay in it because you have to live through that adversity. People always try and sell what's a secret to trading, and I say there is no secret. It's very hard work
Yes.
and living through stuff because you can't learn experience. It's something you just have to live through.
So true. I have a couple of questions along those lines. Um, but I just wanted to say that when I thought about interviewing you, I thought of the saying where one conversation with a wise man is actually worth more than reading many books because you're receiving from that experience and you're gleaning from that experience. And that's what I've gleaned by watching you, by learning from you, by listening to your videos, by watching your charts, by reading your tweets, by being in groups with you. And it's just such a wealth of information, so very much appreciated. And one of the things I have gleaned from you is that you're very calm, you're very relaxed, and being in all of these trading circles with so many different types of traders, from young guys who are so aggressive and just, they want to just all in, and to, I glean so much from more older men who I call them vets in the markets. That's just what I call them. They're veteran market traders. And I've just seen so much soundness in your trading, so much patience, humility, and discipline. Is that something that you've developed along the way through the years, or would you say that you've always been kind of relaxed and slower to
Well, it's
trade?
it's nice that I project that. Um, and you talk about all the things about detachment and just not having any one trade be too important to you. But trading is so psychological that it can take years to overcome the paradigms that we come into this business with. I've told people, I've shared the experience that one of my problems in the market was letting my profits run, and I would be there for the tough money, and then there'd be a windfall day and I wasn't there. And I've actually
Yep.
traced that back to my childhood because a lot of who we become, our initial paradigm, is what happens the first 8 years when we're wide open before our ego takes shape. And I had a childhood where my mother raised us divorced. She was divorced and she had to work. And I can remember being in a grocery line with her and watching her anxiety level rise as the register, the totals would go higher. So if you were brought up where with scarcity, it's hard to let a risk a profit. So you want to just grab it.
Right.
So I've had to change that paradigm by changing the technique that I'm not all in, I'm not all out, because at times, even though your entries could be perfect and your exits could be perfect, that is the exception. That's not the rule. So I learned to piece into the market because I have a tendency to be early, and I piece out of it because I have a tendency to ring the register early. So you really learn about yourself in trading and the emotions of how you approach money.
Hmm.
You're taught to trade the market, not you shouldn't look and say, well, I'm up $2,000. That's not the important thing. Is where is the market? Is the market offering you more? Was that your original objective when you got in the trade, or were you looking for more? And so you have to change your habits by finding something that will help you not hinder yourself by taking profits too soon. So everyone has something they have to look at that they come into it. Perhaps it's they were affluent.
Hmm.
So if they were affluent, they always knew there was more money behind whatever mistake they made in their
Right.
life. So they could be aggressive and take losses and, have no fear about it until it all comes home and they realize what place they're in from being too aggressive and thinking there was always going to be someone to bail them out, like American business and banks
Hmm.
today.
Right. Do you believe that everybody blows up their account? I think I've heard
Uh,
you.
Yeah, I would say that yeah, I think that number is a little low now, the 700. I think it's way over 1,000. And I always ask traders, if have you ever blown up an account? I'd say the majority have early in their career. We learn from pain,
Yes.
don't we, in all
Yes.
aspects of our life. And I had a friend who would say to me when I was earlier in my career, and he was a more experienced trader, and said to me, Dale, how many times do you have to get hit in the head with a ball peen hammer to know it hurts? And for some people, it only takes once. For other people, repeated hits of that ball peen hammer. So it's every individual is different, and that's why I tell people to start slow. In fact, the best way to start is not being live. I'm not a big believer in demos because people don't take those seriously, but I am a big believer in micro lots so that you really can't harm yourself,
Mhm.
but you still have money on the line. So you're getting the feeling for what the emotion is when you're in the market. So
Well,
that's
yeah,
where I tell people to start.
good advice. Good advice. My husband had told me when I started, I started in 2013 watching the markets, and my husband said, my friend's making tons of money trading options on his phone at work, so I'm going to set you up with a few screens. I was like, what? I don't even know what a ticker is.
Yeah,
And he's told me to paper trade.
yeah,
And I, of course, had that aggression. You get in and you could see, wow, your account turns green and you're making money out of
yeah,
nowhere.
yeah.
And I didn't want to paper trade, but I learned that wasn't.
Well, I heard from Jack Schwager. He goes, "It's the only business where people think they could read a book over the weekend and go in and be ready." He says it's akin to someone reading a book about brain surgery and being able to walk into the operating room on
Absolutely.
Monday. So it takes more than a book. It takes time, and in our business, it's screen time
Yes.
and the journey you took. Communities are very important. They're,
Absolutely.
not only in our spiritual lives and our lives in our neighborhood, in the markets, being around people that are better than you instead of being intimidated or competitive, consider that a great advantage, a blessing that they want to show you the way and help you avoid landmines that they've stepped on already. So You were fortunate to, end up in the right places. It takes a lot of discernment nowadays on the internet because there are a lot of charlatans
Oh,
and
yes.
barracudas out there.
Absolutely. And to have information that's free, that's so valuable from, I would call veteran traders and people who have been around a long time and seen a lot of things is really such a gift. It's a blessing. I try to stand back now and just, take in what I'm hearing and kind of discern what's happening. Would you say that right now, the events that we're seeing in the world are unprecedented?
Yeah, I believe that we're in uh, the fourth turning.
Yes,
A lot of work has been done. A guy I interview has an epoch cycle that is predict a lot of similarities between the 70s, only on steroids.
absolutely.
I believe that our country changed after 9/11 when the Patriot Act was
Yes.
established, and the powers that be um, have made it difficult for the average guy to make it and the wealthy guy to become extremely rich. I'm concerned about things like a CBDC,
Mhm.
privacy issues. I'm concerned about geo risk that's out there that people really don't pay any attention to. I'm concerned about the huge pile of leverage and debt on the books of not only banks, but pension funds and municipalities. And globally, I think that we need a jubilee.
Okay.
So
You're
there's
touching on,
only,
you're
yeah,
touching on so many questions I had for you.
yeah. So I mean, it's Jubilee was a great idea that they had in the Old Testament. It gave everyone a fresh start, including governments. And I guess in God's wisdom, He knew that people would become debtors and become enslaved. And after 40 years, I believe it was, there was a jubilee so that the next generation wouldn't be affected by the debts accumulated by a prior generation. And I'd say that the Fed, um, policy error after policy error, for many years. We're starting to see, like today, and I watched one of your videos where you said, we may not be able to leave. Well, what a perfect example. Uh, I don't know which airline was totally grounded today.
Southwest.
Okay, but the things that we used to take for granted as being reliable
Mm-hmm.
and things that we could count on seem to be not so anymore. So I think more than ever, besides just trading, and that this has also helped me during tough periods, is for someone to have spirituality at this time. If they don't, and all they do is believe in their bank account
Mm-hmm.
and what they have materially, I think it's going to be, even for those who have a spiritual background and believe in something outside of the material realm, it's going to be difficult. But if you have nothing to stand on but your financials, it's going to be, I don't know how they do it.
Mm-hmm.
It's, for me, it's been um, something that, it's like I say, trading is what I do. It's not all that I am. And then I'll put up an example of me out singing an Elvis Presley song, Kentucky Rain, or something like that. So it's important not to become too obsessed with this that it becomes your whole life. It should be considered a vocation and avocation, but you don't want to be sitting in front of your trading platform 12 hours a day, 24 hours a day. And then if you don't have results, it's really not a great lifestyle. You want to have other things that are important to you in your life besides what happens in the Japanese yen, gold, or T-bonds.
I think the worst is when you're in a trade at night and you're worried about your stop loss because it's going to get hit, and that's a big thing you taught taught me about moving your stop loss a little bit.
Yeah.
You're awake 2 a.m, 3 a.m, because Europeans they're getting on and they're going to start trading, and that's the worst. And you're just losing sleep and getting on your phone. And
Yeah.
but it's great incorporation into the whole world system is so important, the financial system, because it's pivotal, it's key. And you touched on so many things there. Getting back to the debt jubilee, I would like to talk about that a little bit. I did a little video on the 50th year because the debt jubilee came 7 sevens.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
somebody asked Jesus in the Gospels, how should I forgive 7 times 7? Because it had to do with that jubilee, like give the forgiveness. But he said, no, 70 times
Indeed.
7.
Always
But-
multiplying, isn't he?
Right. But the 7 times 7 goes back to actually 1971 when we were taken off the gold standard through Bretton Woods. 7 times 7 years brings us right to COVID,
Interesting.
to the Great Reset.
I never thought of that, Deanie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
you could call me D. But
Okay, D.
I thought that was interesting that the 7 sevens brought us right to COVID when it started. Now, my question is always, because I more recently, I've been a devout Christian my whole life, very spiritual person, and the markets is what actually led me. And I think some of your posts, even because of some of the people you follow and you repost some of their things, led me to see how the patterns and the fractals are associated with the astrology. And so I began learning about this the last couple of years. And I'm just saying that to say,
God's a mathematician, D.
that's right. It's a sacred geometry.
Yeah. The Hebrew letter is geometric. The Hebrew calendar was based on lunar cycles. So, there's math, there's in everything. And that's the order of things, how it was created with that order. So, you pay attention to numbers like that. One of the formations that I'm known for that I didn't create, I've never taken credit for it, is called a 3-drive formation. And I learned it from a guy just online, not even personally, named J.R. Hill. And later on, when I became spiritual, I converted to Christianity through the Roman Catholic Church. I know some of your viewers are going to have ideas about that. I was bar mitzvahed at 13. Okay, so I'm hedged, right? So anyway, the point I was going to make is that it's that number, the numbers that you talk about, the number 3, third time's a charm. 3 in popular culture, 3 strikes you're out. You're a hockey player, you won a hat trick. You're an astronomer. We're the 3rd planet from the sun. The Godhead, the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit is 3. It's a number of completion. So I really pay attention to that formation for a completed move, and tied in with some RSI work that I do. And I looked at that formation differently once I converted and accepted the Lord. And my conversion moment was this: sitting in an Easter service, hearing the minister say what Jesus said while he was on the cross, saying, "Forgive them, they know not what they do." I said, my people missed him the first time around. He's got to be God. Wow. Who else forgives their torturers and persecutors and murderers?
Wow.
So that was but I came to be interested in it way before that. I know we were going to talk about markets, but I was interested in, going back to the late great Planet Earth, Hal Lindsey, and Revelations. I was always looking at the world and, going back to the first Gulf War, and, is this it? Are we there? And reading different people that wrote about the tribulation. So really, that's what sparked my interest. And then I look back at my life, and I grew up in a predominantly Jewish area. but most of my friends were not. They were Catholic guys, and I was the only Jewish kid on the CYO basketball team with my friends. A woman in my neighborhood who was Catholic helped me get grants and loans so I could go to university. So these threads were running through my life when I didn't even really recognize these threads and this Jesus.
Hmm.
So that's kind of my conversion story. And, I survived cancer, colorectal cancer, about 8 years ago, 9 years ago. And I didn't go with the last round of chemo against my doctor's advice. He said, well, Dale, it'll increase your odds of it not recurring. And I said, well, how do you know? What are the odds? Let me talk to your patients that have done that. And oh no, I can't do the HIPAA Act. And I said, well, then I'm going to just place my faith in God and let
Wow.
him take care of it. And I like the odds there.
Beautiful.
And I passed on it. And everyone, at first were very concerned that I did. And
Mm.
here I am talking to you today.
Wow.
That's my testimony.
How many years ago was that?
8, 9 years ago.
Praise God.
Yeah.
We're happy
So,
to have
so I've been able to teach people, and
Yeah.
and it's interesting, Deanie. I don't know why you came to my Twitter feed, but most people come to my Twitter feed for market stuff,
Yeah.
right? Then they start seeing prayers,
Yes.
then they start seeing some scripture,
Yep.
and then they start hearing some worship music,
Yep.
and some people leave. Some followers leave, and I've tweeted this, that I'd rather lose a follower to be one.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. I love it.
So, the people that are there for the mammon and the manna, put up with it if it's not their belief system. And the people that are there to be fed a bit spiritually, learn about the markets.
Yes.
So, yeah, I have a 2-track Twitter stream.
And I know it. And I see the Christ we woven in that stream exactly the way you explain it. You're not screaming out scriptures and telling people, come here, let me tell you this. It's just who you are. And you just put it out there as naturally and organically as it comes through you, which is so
Hope.
cool.
To encourage and to give people hope
Yeah.
is, I have a saying when it comes to hope, that hope is the oxygen in our life, but it's the carbon dioxide in trading.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
That's good.
So we need the hope. Don't lose hope. So that's what I try and say. And it's okay to be rescued. Everyone needs to be rescued, and it's okay to fall. Everyone falls. You could be a prodigal son 100 times,
Mm.
and I've tried it a few times, and the father's going to run towards you with open arms when you come home. So I know it's going to be about the market, but this is, I think, more important than the market, because it'll be here when they shut down the game, which who knows what could happen down the road. So I wanted to let people know where I'm coming from. And it's a different place than where I used to come from, where I also, early in my career, I had a poem because I always got up early during the day. And I said, my life is like a farmer, up before sunrise, asleep after sundown, except that I nourish seeds of greed for the harvest of commissions.
Wow.
So that's where I was at. Now I don't receive commissions. I kind of had to reinvent myself into a content provider other than from a broker. I was a broker for a
Mm.
few decades with my own IB. And, there's an inherent conflict of interest. There used to be. With a broker, you get paid by volume.
Right.
So every trade looks good. Let's do it.
Right. Right. And
Right.
I see that in fund managers on Twitter. It's like everything's bullish, even though it's not.
Yeah.
It's just they can push it that way to make it seem like it's bullish when everything in my intuition is saying this chart doesn't look bullish to me, you know.
Right.
So, but you can sense the anxiety that they have to, be positive or have that hope, like you said, which is CO2 when it comes to the markets,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, charting, uh, you can learn from a lot of people. There's, like they say, many different ways to do this. Jack Schwager says, find a trading style that suits your personality. So some people are more suited to day trade and not take a position home overnight. Um, I say, unless I take a position home over the weekend, I can't relax because I have nothing to worry about.
So true.
So know yourself and, and find your style and find the right market. The right market is the market you're interested in because you'll be passionate about it. You don't have to know what's happening in 40 markets. I knew guys on the floor that never left the cattle pit
Really?
that did very well just knowing one market like the back of their hand. And they didn't have to be portfolio traders. They were specialists. Find something to specialize in because the more you try to cover, the less focus you're going to have on everything because you're trying to watch everything. So, that's something else I suggest is that you could screen everything, but only have a few markets that you're an active trader in, I
That's a
think
good
is a good
strategy.
piece of advice.
I was going to ask you what your advice might be for new traders, but I really appreciate you sharing your testimony here because the light really shines through you, the light of God. And um, I see you like a spiritual, financial, like economical father. Like you're this father to the Twitter community, to the Forex analytics guys. Even when you guys get on in a meeting and they're all different ages, but they're mostly younger than you. And it's like they've got all their different personalities, and then you kind of come in with this fatherly covering, and I feel it. I feel the energy, like when you guys speak, and it kind of wraps everything up in like safety and love and covering, and it's precious, and I really
Thank
appreciate
you.
that as well. So talking to people say out there and incorporating the spirituality, like you said, how everything is important. It can't just be, I got to focus on my bank account right now. I lived in New York during 9/11. My family was right next door to the buildings. They were running across bridges to get back home to Long Island on foot.
Yeah.
I worked in the ER at that time with an ER doctor, and they kept playing it in the ER, which was so
Yeah.
sad because we kept watching the buildings fall. His brother was in finance in that building, and he was just crying all day. And we all knew people that died there.
Yeah.
Uh, New York was never the same. Our region was never the same, obviously tied to Wall Street. And then when COVID hit, it was never the same from that. And I know personally that region, and I have since moved to Tennessee near the mountains for this reason, but I know that
Yeah.
region in a PTSD state. And when you're in that state, you don't really even know that you're caught up in it because you're so full of anxiety and stress and trying to keep up with everything that's happened to you that you don't see it until you're out of it. But in my opinion,
We're still in it.
yeah,
I mean, I don't care what your location is, that it's a global anxiety, fear level, conspiracies, and just how it makes me. I watch Turner Classic Movies to calm me down,
okay.
to take me back to eras. Vietnam, the Vietnam era relaxes me, and that
Wow.
wasn't so, and that, and that wasn't such a great time, but for
Hey,
me
Dale,
it
what do we do to
was.
relax, Dale? Oh,
The
I watch
music,
Vietnam.
yeah, I watch, Platoon or Apocalypse Now. Anyway,
I
but
know people
I
that
mean,
people watch zombie movies.
okay, well, I mean, some of these those movies compared to what's happening now and what could be on, on the burner,
Yeah, that's what I wanted to go
it
to.
was, really not as serious as, some of the things we're facing. I mean, I'm concerned about Cold War's turning hot. I have friends that say, "Oh, Dale, no, it's only going to be a proxy war, and that's it. The major players aren't going to confront each other." And I don't know. That's not what the Bible says.
Right.
You
Now,
know,
do you believe the book of Revelation as concrete, or do you believe it as like a multidimensional quantum type, you know, has to do with different realms or
yeah, I think that it's a message for humanity.
okay.
That it's first time in our history that besides destroying countries with kinetic warfare, that we could destroy the world with nuclear warfare. And everyone feels like, well, that's not going to happen because it's the end of the world. Who's going to do that? Well, there's never been weapons that mankind has created that they've only used once. So, that's a major concern, is that a power gets backed into the corner and does it. Maybe they'll just do it on a tactical level. I thought it might happen in Ukraine. Um, I think that war could spread. I think we're being complacent about that it's just going to be done, located kinetic warfare in Ukraine. I think it could spread to NATO countries. The alliance of Xi and Putin, North Korea and Iran, seem kind of similar to what happened in World War II. Instead of Germany, it's Russia. Instead of Japan, it's China. And some of the other Axis powers, I don't know, but they probably line up with uh, Iran, enemies of the world order the way it is, with U.S. dominance and the reserve currency and all of that. So there are a lot of things that if you dwelled on them, you know you might be saying, "Take me already, Lord.
Yeah, I hear a lot of people
I'm
say.
ready. I'm ready. It's enough. I don't have to see the end of the show." Um,
Exactly.
but
What about the dollar?
okay, go ahead.
What about the dollar with reserve currency status?
Well, everyone wants to see the top guy take a fall. That's why people are so fascinated when celebrities get caught up in scandals, or, they like to see uh, whoever has been on top and has maintained the power to lose it and someone else rise to that level. And we have there's a lot of nations in the world not rooting for us anymore and have become adversarial. And, the big people have written books about the upcoming thing with China. And, Putin isn't going to stop, um, unless, he's just not going to stop.
Mhm,
So, what about our leadership in the Western world? Um, you know, who can handle all of this,
mhm.
let alone all the domestic things that are happening? It just seems overwhelming out
Mhm.
there.
Yeah,
And actually, trading is a distraction,
yeah.
that kind of takes you away from thinking
Mhm.
about all these things. I'm always happy when I talk to an optimist who says, "Oh, don't worry, Dale, the world's not coming to an end. It's just, less funding money out there, and that's good." And I hope they're right. I hope
Yeah,
that
it seems like a lot of people are rooting for, I see this great bifurcation happening where there's a, well, we're in the age of Aquarius. We've just entered the age of Aquarius, and Aquarius is ruled by a planet, Uranus, which is uranium, which is
right,
nuclear, right?
explosiveness. Yeah.
And and Uranus happens to be in the house of assets right now. So
Oh,
there's
okay.
all these
That's interesting.
quantum aspects going on right now. We're actually entering an eclipse window
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Yeah,
with Mercury retrograde, which has to do with communication and information. And so that's why we're seeing flights grounded, and we may see like haywire information connections going down, especially because of this eclipse. It's very, very pivotal, this eclipse. It's
it's
really
fairly rare.
very
This,
rare. It
okay,
because Pluto has entered Aquarius, none of us have lived in this time where Pluto has entered Aquarius.
okay,
So this is that first eclipse, and it's squaring Uranus, which rules Aquarius, which is all about revolution. But Aquarius is also, and I'm a novice at this, but Aquarius is also the age where power is given back to the people. It's about the collective. It's so there can be this bifurcation where you see this explosive, dark side. So that's Aquarius, that's anything spiritual can have a dark side, right? And a light side, the yin, the yang, everything, even the markets, we can see that in everything, in nature. Too much of anything is no good, right? So just as a heads up, this week is very, very pivotal for what's happening in the sky and in the energy.
interesting. Because I think we're near an inflection point in the dollar. I'm long-term bearish, but I do believe that there are too many bears right now, and I'd like to see an emotional washout into that event. Dollar made new lows and then recovered on Friday, then followed through Monday. I don't know how we're closing today, but I'd like to see those lows taken out and us take out the big round number. People get very emotional with big round numbers like 2,000 gold and
Right,
30,000 Bitcoin and
right.
$100, $200 crude. Well, $1 Dixie is one of those levels that we're approaching right now. So I'd like to see a panic underneath it
Okay.
and then be alert for a reversal. And then I think we could have a pretty good bear market rally in the dollar, which I think is going to be a headwind for almost every asset class
Mm.
for a few months, maybe even into maybe the solstice.
Do you think that because there's a very strong aspect having to do with Uranus being in Taurus, and this has to do with commodities, has to do with the earth, everything that comes out of the earth, food. That's why we're seeing inflation in food and gold going up. Do you think that the dollar and commodities such as gold and silver can go up at the same time?
No, I'm not in the camp. It took a turn in the dollar to get silver to turn. It did not turn, and you could go back historically. Gold at times can go up at the same time there's dollar strength, but I don't think there's ever been a bull market in silver without a dollar bear market.
Okay.
So I think it's pretty critical. I think a lot of things will be under pressure. Not just we'll see how stocks hold up. Maybe they're going to try 4,300. They might be turning right here. We close back under 3980. You're going to know there's something wrong in
Okay.
the S&Ps. That's kind of a bull bear line, 4,000, 3980.
Yeah, I've been watching
And
it.
yeah, and gold, while the dollar's selling off one more time, may make another run. But I've been telling people if they're patient and they just wait for a pullback, a correction in gold, that I think they'll be able to buy it back under 1900,
Okay.
maybe the mid 18s.
Okay.
And go ahead.
There's people calling, like, what do you think about the perception of people calling the S&P at 1500 a washout completely?
Oh, yeah, I think that could happen, but a
Yeah.
lot later.
Okay.
I actually think I'd like to see us just take care of business, clean house under that 3450 level and trade down to 32 to 3000.
Okay.
And then I think we could launch another pretty big wave to new all-time highs from there.
Lower.
That'll complete a
Okay.
wave four down there. No one will want to buy stocks.
No.
And then the Fed does pivot, because I don't think they're going to pivot till we have the market there. It's no emergency right now
Right.
at near 4,200. It will be an emergency at S&P 3,200, 3,000, and that's when they're going to pivot. I think initially all they do is pause after they hike one more time. I think the
There's the one
market's
more
got
high.
it wrong. Huh?
One more hike coming up, one more
Yeah,
hike.
but we don't go right into an easing cycle.
25?
We go 25, but we pause. And then if inflation doesn't improve and OPEC's not helping us,
Well, I wanted to talk about oil. What do you think about that and that being connected to the petrodollar?
there's still some people bullish crude oil. I could make a case either way. There's still some people saying, this is just a artificial thing that's going to be taken out. But then I look at the grain complex, coffee, sugar, food, things the Fed can't print, things
Mhm.
that the central bankers can't create out of thin air.
Right.
And, we have this monster grand El Nino building in the Pacific, which normally leads to poor growing conditions in the Midwest. And we don't have a lot of carryover grain, especially with what's happening in Ukraine, which was one of the major breadbaskets of the world. So I don't think the Fed uh, is winning the war against inflation. You go back to the 70s, and there were several times where it looked like it was receding, and it did. But
Hmm.
then it came back and to go to even higher levels until we really had to get draconian with Volcker. So we could pause here and then have to start tightening again too. It's a
Okay, two questions.
possibility.
Do you think, I would like to ask you about Operation Sandman, where all other, the other countries of the world are going to dump US treasuries. Supposedly they're conspiring to do this overnight. Do you believe that's just a conspiracy, or do you believe that could happen?
I think it's it's the first time I've heard about it. To me, the Sandman was, something I wiped out of my eyes the next morning after a blissful night of sleep. But I mean that's been first the Chinese were going to do it. And they've been selling bonds for years now. They don't hold as much. I'm not sure if there's going to be anything like that happening. The bonds I thought were going to make a move with the yields going lower, and it's a very important level in TLT that we have today. We take out today's lows, and you're going to see new highs in long-term yields. The
Okay.
bonds will go back and retest the low. But yeah, that's one thing I'm not sure about. I would think that things like that are going to be more self-inflicted, like the complacency about the debt ceiling.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's just like everything else that people are ignoring. It's a drama, it's theatrics, and when it comes down to it, it'll get done. But we've never had a Congress like this. We've
Mm.
never had a system like this where, people in government that want to take it down.
Hmm.
Okay, so and last time when we stretched it out, it didn't stop a downgrade by Moody's, which I don't think would be a friendly event for the shape the bond markets are in and the shape the banks are in for holding long bonds from levels that weren't seen since the last Civil War.
Crazy.
They were AWOL, whoever was their risk manager, to
Right.
have stayed long duration during the
Insane.
worst bear market in bond history.
Do you think more
So,
banks go down?
yeah,
Do you think more banks go down?
yeah,
Yeah. What about heavy holding, derivative banks? What if, what would,
yeah,
isn't there so much counterparty risk that this is like an implosion of dominoes?
it could be. And the Fed's going to try and contain it, control it. Um, I don't know. I think about it. I still keep money in the bank. Um, I diversify. Everyone should have some metals
Right.
in their, in a coffee can and some cash.
Okay.
But what are
Do
you
you
going
think
to do? Bury it all? Bury,
Mhm. You got to
hundred
still
thousand
live,
dollars in the backyard?
right?
So
Do you
I
think
think
that,
you go to treasury bills because if the U.S. government defaults, you're going to need guns anyway. So, but the safest paper out there still is the 90-day short term. You could just roll them as rates go up or they come down. They're
Mhm.
liquid. There's no principal risk, and
Right?
you get the going rate, and they're guaranteed by the U.S. government. not guaranteed by the SIPC or FDIC.
Can you tell
So
people where they can have access to those?
I think you just go to the Fed and
Okay,
set up an account, talk to your broker. You're better off with the T-bills than being in a fund that owns them,
right.
because who knows, I mean, I have an account with a company that's under pressure, Schwab. Who knows what's going to happen there with SIPC? It's really it's a quandary. So, you do a little bit of everything. I was never a crypto enthusiast, but
Well, I
I
won't
do
ask you
like
about
I wouldn't pay 29, but if there was another break towards 18 or 14, that if we have a liquidity a sell off and risk
it.
could happen into late summer or sometime,
Yeah.
there's nothing more portable. Nothing. Are you going to drag your silver, ever pick up
Well,
a silver coin bag pre-65? They're heavy. You could get a hernia lifting them up. So, I mean, how are you, how are you going to have that be, flight capital for you?
do you think
And you,
we'll go to a tokenized blockchain markets?
yeah,
You do. Do you think that'll be an overnight event, or do you think it'll be a gradual?
I think that they're going to, I think that they'll do it during a crisis. Okay. And most likely they'll do it because the dollar is uh, in having a severe decline, and they'll come out and say this is will stabilize it.
Okay.
And because I don't think we're in a hurry to give up the reserve currency status, and I'm not sure we'd have that with a CBDC or a one world coin. I don't. I do think that the dollar will be the sacrificial lamb for this debt crisis. That they'll debase it,
Mm,
either default or debase, and I think they'll choose that. It's because it could be kind of stealthy, where people really don't realize it. But there's really an acute awareness of the dollar, and it's really right now that people are worried about it. I've
yeah.
had grain people call me and
Yeah.
want me to talk about the dollar. I'm surprised. Blake's uh, 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 cleaning person
Yeah.
asking
Really?
about the dollar. It's like
Yeah.
the shoe shine boy giving you
Yeah.
stock
Yeah.
tip.
We just got off the phone with our accountant, and she said she's hearing it from her, just
Yeah,
regular clients. I mean,
yeah,
this is not just amongst the market people anymore.
yeah,
So they want us to know this message. Obviously, they want us to
yeah.
be talking about this for it to become just a regular,
Right.
every
Worry about the
conversation.
dollar so that we'll be
Right.
open to an alternative when they're
Correct.
ready.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you believe that the U.S. would go to war over the dollar's world reserve currency status?
We always have.
Okay. And what about the Middle East countries having, knowing that our dollar is petro backed, right? If anything backed, other than by trust in the U.S., in the world. Um, if they start joining BRICS, then what?
It reduces the demand for the dollar. It's part of the de-dollarization process. It's going to take years. I don't
Okay.
think it's an overnight event. I think it's more of a, unless we have a major, major financial crisis and markets closed and banks are closed, and
Okay.
that type of event where we just go dark.
Right.
I think it's going to be more of an 5-year process,
Okay. Many people do
something like.
believe there will be a period of darkness and we will go down and we will have like an internet shutdown.
Yeah,
And
I'm
then,
worried about that.
yeah.
I
Do you
mean,
think,
look, I live in California, D,
okay.
and we prayed for rain, and we got it this year, and we
Okay.
don't have, instead of being able to collect it, it just all went out to the ocean, and we'll have water shortages where we never should. And in fact, they're talking about the snow melt causing flooding in California once the melt really
Wow.
gets going. So we,
Wow.
we were given the grace of water, and we weren't a good steward of what was
Wow.
given, and it's all in the Pacific now.
What a
Filled
message.
up some of the reservoirs, but not like it could have.
Do you
And,
see a lot of homeless people out there? I hear a lot about home.
not where I live, but yeah, they're everywhere. They've been everywhere for a long time, and they're increasing. And I'm sure we're going to have more Hoovervilles down the road.
Okay. Do you think
Where
we'll have a resource problem? as far as food,
We
and
already do.
you think that'll
And
worsen?
yeah, we have a resource problem with energy. In California, I paid 3 times the amount for natural gas, with natural gas prices making historic lows.
Yeah, right.
Yet the way they handled their hedge account or whatever here in California, they were able to charge record levels with a spot market making lows. So yeah,
Incredible.
we're gonna have we have, yeah, it's like Rome. It feels like, you know, maybe the lesson to take is what did people do near the end of the Roman Empire? And many people did leave Rome and settled in Europe and, found new lives and were prosperous. But it sure takes a lot of courage and energy to pick up and leave and go look for a haven during
It
the,
does.
you have connections, you have people. It really takes I think a pretty courageous person to just get out there and find a place where they could ride out the storm.
Well, that's
I
what my
wouldn't even
husband.
know where that is, honestly.
Well, moving out of New York to Tennessee in the mountains was
Yeah.
that courageous move that I made, and it
Okay.
wasn't easy, and it still isn't easy. It's a completely different culture.
Yeah.
It's very
Yeah.
humble. It's very humbling.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you about the the low reserves that we have here in the U.S. of crude
Oil.
oil. Are
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
what
All right.
happens?
Well, that's another problem with the budget. With the budget, if we had a budget, we could have been filling up the SPR. But the U.S. government doesn't have the money to buy crude when it was hanging out there at 70 and 65 because we don't have a budget.
Mm,
So what a time to get caught with our pants down uh, without having strategic oil reserves right now.
it's like the
I
perfect storm. The
Yeah,
perfect storm is brewing.
yeah, and even the military, we can't keep up with the production of arms just to supply Ukraine and our own troops, just even though they're not in action. So, yeah, shortage, happy shortage everywhere except debt. We
Right.
have a surplus of debt.
That's right. Let me ask you about that one more thing about the markets. I'm just interested in your view on the volatility. I just keep getting killed. I keep jumping in there and I'm just getting crushed, and I get
Yeah.
out and I keep getting back in. What do you think about volatility?
Well, it's interesting you ask. It's probably near the bottom because I liquidated some VIX calls. Actually, um, the first run we had to 31, and the VIX, I think, shouldn't be traded anymore for me. Okay, because I've had nothing but difficulty with it, even
Me
when I'm
too.
right. I gave the example. I bought June 25 calls when the VIX was 17, right near the low. And it took a while and it went up, went down. Then we finally had the SVB thing. It traded to 31, which should have given me $6 intrinsic value from a $25 strike.
Right.
And that day was trading at 31. The best I could get was 450. I couldn't even get intrinsic value out of them. So if something doesn't work when you're right, it's kind of a message
It is.
to not trade them anymore. And most of these VIX products, I've flushed enough down the toilet. I swear off VIX as far as a trade. I'll watch it
Hmm.
and look for patterns. It'll tell me what to do in the market. Um, but I'm looking at things like semiconductors look heavy to me. I even bought some September puts in Apple today. So just in case it does, everyone's saying nothing's going to happen till the fall. And I've even interviewed a guy who knows GAN, and GAN has 2024 as
Hmm.
the down year in stocks. That's next year. So, but everyone thinks that we'll be okay through mid-year, and then the sell-off begins in the fall because they've always happened in the fall. And I, have a hard time embracing a narrative that everyone else does. And why can't there be a surprise this summer?
Hmm.
And then we begin to recover. But most people are saying market peaks mid-year. maybe around the solstice, sell in May and go away.
Mhm.
I even know some guys that melt up guys that I could see their case of an all-time new high. So there's, just be tactical, trade small, like an idea like Apple or an idea like the semiconductors. I don't go all in anymore. Take small risks, a couple thousand at a time. If say you have a $50,000 account, don't risk half of it. Risk a piece and spread your bets, and don't do them all the same thing all the same time and pile in because you have so much conviction. That's a recipe for blowing up another account.
That's so true.
So trade small because really there aren't many trends out there right now. There's a
Miners
lot of
are miners
sideways.
are doing nothing for us either.
What's
Even
that?
with gold and silver going up, the miners, I tried jumping in there and just it
They had a
feels
pretty
like,
good run, and I got, and again, my paradigm got me out of the miners early, right the weekend before SVB. I was
okay.
buying some silver shares that went from 280 to 420, and I got out at 340, 350, and left that on the table. Some gold shares I bought at 310. I got out at 360. They went to 420. So there were like 30-40% gains in the miners on
Mhm.
this recent run from gold at 1800.
I think I started
Um,
looking at them too late because I lost faith in them for so
yeah,
long.
well, they have other issues.
Yeah.
They have energy issues, but I think a lot of them have cleaned up their balance sheet, and that what you're saying to me is what I hear from a lot of people now. So it's probably time they will work. I would buy a pullback in the miners.
Okay.
Keep an eye on gold, maybe around 1850 to 1800. I think you could buy miners GDX 29-ish,
Okay.
something like that. So I still believe in them and a continuation move, but it should happen after this dollar rally, and it should be a pretty significant rally. If I'm right, you'll be able to see the euro near parity again, and cable around 112 to 108. So that's going to be a 10% rally in
Wow.
the dollar from wherever we turn. Then the dollar's going to break and you could be long everything.
Right.
Because if you get the dollar right, you can
Right.
get the market right. It's all one market. And the dollar is a fulcrum of the wheel,
That's right.
and it has spokes going out, which are, stocks, bonds, commodities, but everything revolves around that. Some people say it's the bond market, chicken or egg thing. I say it's a dollar, it's the deepest market, the FX market.
Do you think that the disparity between the reality of what the markets show us to the reality of what we're really looking at in real life will continue to widen?
The disconnect between economic fundamentals and what the market's doing, until every short is broke.
Okay.
I do. But
You know,
I'd say my highest conviction trade is going to be buy the break in the metals. I think yen could trade above 140. So rates or yields are going to rise for a while. They started to. Maybe the 10-year goes to 390 or so. And once its dollar rally is over and you have a chance to buy, euro around $1 and cable 110 and 63 cent Aussie, you diversify out the US dollar and buy some of these currencies um, and the metals.
any opinions on a housing market break?
I don't know what it's going to take. It's a different situation because of supply. I think it's going to take a bankruptcy by some of the big funds like BlackRock that became the nation's landlord after taking advantage and being part of what took away people's houses during the Great Recession, they call it. It wasn't great for me. Was
Horrible.
it great for you, the Great Recession? Anyway, that's what they call it. So for them to have to, and they're getting bailed out by partners are coming in to give them money. They have problems with commercial. So I think it's going to take some of these big funds that own thousands of residential places that they bought for nothing in 2009 and now rent to the people who lost their homes for a lot more than their mortgage used to be.
Bad. And what about the commercial real
I
estate?
root for that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I root for that.
the renters to come
Yeah.
in. What
Yeah,
about the commercial real estate that now is empty from COVID? Do you think that's going to get scooped up and just the way houses did when they were foreclosed in the world financial crisis?
no, because there's a new paradigm. Even the, the 3-day work week is becoming standard. People found out what it's like to telecommute. Um, we're going to have a recession coming up, so that's not going to be, um, you know, add to employing people that need an office to come to.
Right.
I think there's been a paradigm shift in how Americans work, or even if Americans want to work anymore.
Hmm.
I don't know how a lot of people are getting by
Hmm.
by leaving the workforce unless they're doing some gig or cash thing. But all the support payments are gone. Um,
Yes.
and people don't want to, people can't find labor for all kinds of industries.
So true.
So I don't know, where did the worker go? It's not all boomers like me retiring.
Well,
It's younger people, isn't it?
aren't they here with the face
Yeah,
in the phone?
yeah,
Concerning.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
In mom's basement.
yeah, people don't want.
It's kind of amazing that one episode of getting free money for people that never had it before would change the work ethic of America, which is something that we always prided ourselves on. It was our paradigm, go to school, learn, get good grades, go to university, get into a good company, make it your part of your life and your career, and work hard, push,
Mhm.
achieve. And now it's gummy bears.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's amazing what we're going through right now. Well, it was a Chinese curse. May you live in interesting times.
Wow.
They
Should be
are.
interesting to see what's coming very soon.
Yeah.
Well, Dale, we so appreciate you being with us today. I'm so
Uh,
grateful and appreciate your friendship and all that you've poured into my life. Thanking God for the blessing of you.
well, thank you so much, Deanie. Back at you and your family
Thank you.
and all your listeners out there. Remember, thank God we're not in charge. So when
Amen.
you feel surrounded, remind yourself who you're surrounded by.
Amen. I saw you tweeted something today to end this off. Sometimes God assigns things to end so that we can step into the next level of our destiny. If he allowed it to end, it's because he has something better on the way.
That
What a
guy he's always working behind the scenes
yes,
for our benefit,
that's right.
to
We may not
line the
see it.
people up and the opportunities and the healings and everything behind the scenes, just how we're told give to give anonymously, do it behind the scenes and help people without the recognition that some people want for doing so.
Well, thank you for giving for us today. So appreciate it. And God
I'm
bless you.
glad I'm glad we did it. I enjoyed it, Dee. Really nice talking to you for the first time.
Too.
All right.
Take care.
Adios.
Thanks.
Remember, don't just count your pips, count your blessings.
Blessings.
All right. It's my tagline.
I know.
See you, Deanie.
Thanks. Take care.
Bye-bye.